Today on the CEO Barbecue, we're looking for copper and potentially rare earth elements in Tasmania off the southern coast of Australia, together with CopperCorp. And if you want a bullet point summary of this conversation and all the other CEO barbecues in your inbox once a week, go to researchtalks.com and subscribe to our free newsletter. Now, the company you're about to hear from has paid us for the production of this video, which means that this is not research, it's an advertisement, and you should treat it as such. Research is conducted by reading the company's official filings, which you can find on setterplus.ca. And please only watch this if you absolutely know what you're doing. This interview is intended only for experienced junior mining speculators, because mineral exploration, development, and mining is a very tough business where failure is the norm and should be the expectation. This is going to be a conversation that is general and impersonal in nature, containing forward-looking statements. I am not a licensed financial advisor, and my business sells content-producing services, which also makes me biased in multiple ways. So before continuing on, please talk to an independent investment advisor with a good long-term track record, because your capital might be at risk. If you're not 100% sure you understand 100% of the disclaimers I just showed you, please go to the last section of this video and do not consume this content unless you fully understand and agree with everything said therein. That all said, CopperCorp is listed as CPER on the TSX Ventures Exchange, where over the last 3 months, the average volume has been about 250,000 shares, with a notably pre-financing market cap of $9.5 million and 88.5 million shares outstanding. Today, this is a 10.5 cent stock with a 52-week high of 26.5 cents and a 52-week low of 4.5 cents. The 50-day moving average is at 9 cents and the 200-day moving average is at 11 cents, which means the stock is now trading between the two. Now, as I alluded to just now, CopperCorp is currently issuing more shares. They're doing a financing, which could add up to 30 million shares and 30 million warrants, but we'll talk about that later on. No fancy long intro needed for CopperCorp, though, since Steve's been on the channel many times over the last year, and I even went to site a couple of months ago, and we made a whole movie about it. So for those of you who might still want to see some of those videos, a playlist containing all of them will be linked in the description of this video. Time for me to shut up already, though, and Steve, let you do the talking here. But first of all, thank you for being here today.
Oh, thank you very much for inviting me back.
Pleasure is all mine. And you've had a couple of news releases since I was last on site, including some channel sampling, which is important to talk about, as well as some geophysics, both of which, again, I'm hoping we'll discuss in depth later on. But really what's on everyone's mind here is when will the drills be turning?
Well, this weekend. This is what we're anticipating. Yeah, it was honestly, we're probably about a week and a half late on getting it going. That was due to some road building that we didn't anticipate we'd need to do at Hydes. But yes, I'm on my way to Tasmania this weekend, and I'll be in the field with the field geologists and just watching the drill turn, and just seeing what's going on.
So what Jono's pulling the rigs as we speak.
He certainly is. Yeah, he is. We're meeting with a couple of executives as well, and he tells me also that Sybanye are getting quite active as well. So I'm looking forward to seeing a bit more activity. You were there in the past in Queenstown. You know what it's like, a little bit of a sleepy town. But you look, anybody with a bit more activity going on makes a huge difference in a small town like that.
I think you're beating up a little bit too much on it. I actually liked Queenstown. It's like it's kind of like a minor, I don't know, a minor like a vacation spot, like an attraction. Like everything's about mining when you go in there. It says miner sighting. There's the big excavator in the middle of the town, and everything else. So I actually liked Queenstown.
It is nice, but it's one of those ones that you could see has had better days and probably could do with a bit more of a boost from the mining sector, and hopefully we'll be part of that, and they're also hoping that Sybanye will be a large part of that going forward. I mean, they've got a feasibility study that they've intimated that will be coming out in December or Q4 anyway, and look, based on what we're hearing, things are going ahead with those guys, so be quite exciting to see a bit more activity and a few more people coming and going from town.
Well, because Sybanye has been talking about that in their quarterly reports as well. So I do want to touch upon that, but we'll table that for a moment. We'll get to it later on. I do want to talk about your drill plan because in one of your June updates, where you announced the channel samples, which again we'll talk about in depth, you say, and I quote, "A new round of drilling is now in preparation for Hydes and the Jukes prospect. Currently, project planning is being undertaken to determine how to drill multiple sites with maximum efficacy, taking into account weather, daylight, working hour conditions, logistics, and financial considerations." So what does all that mean? What's a drill plan? You go to Hydes first. So is that what's going to be drilling this weekend and then to Jukes, or how do you see that happening? What's the plan?
Yeah, I mean, there's a limited number of our contracting companies working in Tasmania, but fortunately, we've got the main contractors called Spordlings, and what they're going to do is they're going to put a 24-hour rig on for us. What we decided that we'd start at Hydes, which is the slightly more challenging location, but if the weather conditions get a little tough, we can then set up on the side of the main road, which you went up, the paved road, and drill into Jukes. Now, something that you don't know, and we haven't actually advertised it as yet, but I don't think it's a material thing that I shouldn't be disclosing on here, is that we needed to get the permission of Hydro Tasmania to drill in some of the locations in Jukes. Well, we've received news that we have got the permission now. And so we're just in the process of actually trying to work out the scheduling of which location we'll do at what time. And we may well put two rigs on at the same time. And that's what we're working on right now. So we haven't actually finalized a budget because this information only came in over the last week and a half. And it's really good news for us because it means to say that we can now schedule it in the order that we want to do rather than waiting for the permission. Now, we still need to get permission from the Mineral Resources Tasmania. But look, as I've indicated in the past, and you've met with the folks down there, they are very compliant. We've had an environmental study done, and there's no issues that have come up. And so we expect it just to be a rubber stamp going forward. And in fact, in 2 weeks' time, we do have the chief geologist. Her name's Rebecca Sproul, who's going to be coming out to site with us. And she's very keen to see what we're up to. And in fact, something maybe I should mention right now is there's an SEG conference coming up in Brisbane in September, and a bunch of the participants are going to come down to Tasmania to review critical minerals, and we're on the list there. And I have a feeling that we're going to get a lot more airtime, if you like, both from resource geologists in Tasmania and also from other parts of Australia and the world. So this area is going to become a lot more interesting, and hopefully we'll be drilling at that time when they come down. So look, it's all positive news. I must admit, 2-3 months ago, I was a little bit nervous about what was going forward. The copper price wasn't really helping too much, but this financing that we're hoping to close this week has not been as tough as I thought it was. Copper prices are helping, and also I think first world jurisdiction and the right product, copper gold, right products have really helped us somewhat.
What was because the hydro dam that you took me to is not that close to the project that I would assume, or that I would have assumed that you need additional permits. What did you need permission for from Hydro Tasmania?
No, they do have a water tunnel that you wouldn't have seen that is in that valley down to the right-hand side. And of course, they wanted to make sure that we're not drilling into it. So it's just that, look, Hydro Tasmania are a very important body, much like, the hydro businesses in BC and Canada. And look, they don't maybe sometimes move as quick as you like to, but in this instance, they were very cooperative. And we just literally had to ask for permissions, and they have their buffer zones around any of their infrastructure. And we realized that one of the keyholes that we had was fairly close to that buffer zone. So we just needed to get permissions on it. That's all.
So, but Hydes is completely permitted. What else is, or is it not? And what else is left to get permitted on Jukeston?
Just the other side of the road. So it was the northern side of that main road. If you're heading towards Queenstown from the property, it was the other side of the road that we needed to get the permission on, which we now have.
Oh, so now everything is that's Hydro Tasmania. What about the government permits? Is everything else in order?
Oh, we applied for those, but look, as I said before, I mean, we haven't been turned down for any permit that we've gone for. We don't see any problems. We've already been drilling in the area as it is, so we don't anticipate any problems. The only issue that we may have is that one of the drill pads we'd like to put in is on a steep angle on the side of a hill, so we may well actually need to helicopter the equipment into that particular site. But other than that, I don't see anything that's going to impede us going forward. It's no different than working on the side of a mountain in northern BC. Just imagine it's just like that. It's just, and you were there recently. You just told me prior to this interview,
Yeah.
and it's nothing different from what they're used to. And look, they have the same types of helicopters that they have in BC, and they're used to wildfires, so lifting and putting stuff down. So we don't see it's just a little more expensive to do the helicopter. But if you remember, we also do have a grant from the government. They're going to give us a certain amount of money back for some of the drilling at Dukes. We didn't get it, strange enough, at Hydes, and I asked them why. And they said it's a bit too early stage. So it's got to be in that sweet spot where there's been some work done, but because Hydes is so green, they didn't allow. They said once you've drilled it, then you may be able to get a grant going forward once we have a little bit more information on Hydes.
Right. Okay. So Hydes, that's for Dukes though, that you see on the side of a mountain that you want to drill. Right. Okay. And but you're starting with Hydes this weekend, and that's all permitted. So from the government perspective, from everyone's perspective, you can go and drill.
Yeah, and that's why we're kind of starting it now. We've got the permits in place because we knew that we needed to go for the one layer of extra permission on Dukes because of the hydro, which we don't need for Hydes. So we thought, okay, let's just start with Hydes. It is the more difficult one to drill because of the location. It's only 5 kilometers off the main road, but now that we open the road, Jono was just telling me last week that this is going to really, be a godsend because it's opened up the whole district so that we can put a camp up on the top of that plain, at the top of that hill there, and set up a field camp coming summer. So it's great to get the field work done, the drilling done now, and then should we have success, hopefully we do, then we've got all the infrastructure to be able to do the next phase of exploration.
Right. And where is something that I did want to ask you about, it's as far as I understand it, it's the rainy season right now there. Is that not going to be an issue in any way, like getting too much rainfall? Or I think it could snow there every now and again, but is it snowing now, or what does that look like?
It was snowing 2 weeks ago, and it's kind of that wet snow where it's might snow overnight and then it's gone in the morning. Look, it's not a rare occurrence, but it's rare that it would actually impede you from doing what you need to do. And we're coming out of the backside of the summer right now, so we're coming into the spring fairly soon. Look, water really helps us because we have to lay at the moment. We've just had to lay a 5 kilometer water line to get some of the water to the Hydes property. But the more water that falls, the more locations we have to access water. So no, it's not a problem. The average temperatures are somewhere between 2 degrees and 12 degrees. And the Australians complain about it, but that would be warm and balmy for Canadians. It's not a problem. It's just you just need to get the access in there. You need to have the right equipment. The drill rigs have to be set up correctly for kind of winterize, which is a bit of a new thing for Australians, but everything is possible. Yeah. I mean, look, we're not having to, you went to some really remote locations in the Yukon, if I understand.
Yeah.
And I heard how remote some of those were, hundreds of kilometers away. I mean, we're not even close to it. We're not drilling 1,000-meter holes. I've said in the past, it's 400 Canadian all in. Is somewhere actually, Jono was telling me the Dukes ones were actually cheaper. It was the Dora ones that were slightly more expensive because we had to use helicopters. So it's about 350 to 400 all in.
That's impressive actually. And yeah, now that I've been to the Yukon, I can say that I've seen some remote locations, knowing how many flights and helicopter flights on the back of the plane flights it takes to get there. But I'll have a video coming out on that too, by the way. I'll send it to you so that you can see where I've been. But okay, so no, anyways, you're drilling at Hydes this weekend, and when are the assays going to be coming then in that case?
Well, look, at the end of the day, I think what we'll do is we'll close that. We're drilling a completely virgin area, never been drilled before. The only work that's been done is some old IP geophysics and one trench sample, which we replicated with pretty similar results that BHP had from 1960s. I think we'll be doing the drill program based on the encouragement that we see from the drill holes. So in terms of results, I would say somewhere between where are we now? We're in July. I'd say middle of September would probably be about the right time.
So that would be good. So that would still be before the 4-month hold expires.
I didn't know that's where you were going to go with that. Yes,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
true. It would be.
That
And
well,
the
yeah.
warrants, there's current warrants that will expire in December as well, and they're 12 cent. And we've been trading as high as 11 recently. So I would hope that any encouragement here, we're going to blast through that.
That's a very interesting point. That's the currently outstanding warrants. There are 12, and the new ones are 13 actually, which is interesting as
Yeah,
well.
that's right. And
Yeah.
we designed it that way, to be honest with you, so that, potentially we knew the 4-month hold was something that we have to manage.
Mm-hmm.
And we knew that these warrants were coming out. So if you like, Antonio, we pushed the program a little bit earlier than we thought in order to be able to have the opportunity, should we have good results, that we can exercise a bunch more warrants and bring more cash into the company. Now, I'd imagine once we've closed this financing, we'll have near enough 4 million in the bank, somewhere close to 4 million.
Yeah.
The current drilling that Sean, the VP of exploration, has put together is between 1,500, 2,000. Like, that's a conservative number. I mean, based on that, if you do the maths, 400 a meter, what is 800, is 800,000, say $1 million to do this drilling. We're still going to have a fair amount of cash left, and hopefully a bunch of exercise warrants as well. And if we're going to talk about Hydes for a minute, I mean, the geophysics is extremely impressive. And the trench photos that we showed you, and I think you've seen them before. I actually haven't seen that exposure yet, but I'm going to go up and take a look at it next week. Apparently, it's extremely impressive. So we're just going to be drilling straight below that into the gravity anomaly below. So, yeah.
We'll definitely get to the trenches and the geophysics at Hydes. Just going back to the money here for a second, though, you think that this drill program is going to cost more or less $1 million?
Correct.
Why?
Based on.
Well, why raise capital then in that case now at this price instead of drilling and then raising on the back of that? If you're bullish on Hydes, you could have raised it at a much higher price. So why raise now? Because you already had, like, last financial statements, you had what, $2.5 million. So you could have drilled.
No, but the last ones we had was we were at about 1.8, and we were after we were down to about 1.6 at the time. So look, you get below 2 million, seems to be the magic number. You've got to be somewhat careful. Now, I couldn't have anticipated that the copper price would have gone the way it did. But, as I said before, this is game theory of playing. You're trying to weigh up what might happen, what your options are. And maybe I'm slightly conservative, but that's what my job is, to make sure that the company's financed going forward. So I had to make the decision. The board supported my decision to try and raise funds. Yeah, you look at hindsight's 2020, right? Like, now, when you look at it, maybe we could have, but I'm happy that I'm sitting here with the possibility of 3.8 to 4 million in the bank, and a drill program we can afford, and we can also afford to keep the rather large land position that we have. And we have a major who's doing a fair amount of work right next to us. I think we're in a good position.
Yeah. Well, again, the timing of it was interesting to me, but you do make a good point. You don't want to be on fumes, essentially, and make it a kind of a ride or die, if you will, or what would you call it? Go big or go home drill program. Because if you're just left with $500,000 and then you have to hit, or you're dead in the water, then you're that's not really prudent from a risk management perspective. I do understand that point. Are insiders going to be taking any of that financing?
Yeah, there are. Yes.
Okay, so who's it? You or who else?
Um, Sam Garrett. A large position was actually taken by Doug Kerwin as well.
Oh, okay, interesting. Okay, no, that is good to know. But how many people are participating in this financing after all?
I don't have a list of more than 15 people,
Oh, okay,
and majority of the cash came in from two or three.
interesting.
Crescat was the largest, but only just marginally.
Has is Crescat going to be going above 9.9?
No. And this is the reason why we had to try and close it in the tranches, two tranches, is that it all depended on they wanted to participate for 500,000, but they didn't also want to go above 9.9. So we were playing a bit of a numbers game with how much are we going to raise, how much have we got in the kitty, so that they can stay under the 9.9. But they committed themselves up to 500, but only providing that it was less than 9.9%.
So you had to know how many shares they're holding. Do you know? And feel free to tell me off if I'm not supposed to be asking this. But do you know if they were selling any shares before that? Because I know that they held some shares from before. So are they selling or?
Yeah, it's a very good question, Antonio. And we were curious to find out ourselves because, look, there has been quite a lot of selling in our stock and we didn't quite know where it was going from. And look, it's only a handful of names that it could have come from. So now we've narrowed it down further. No, they hadn't sold one share. That's why we were playing the numbers game with them. They held 5.2%, as I recall. And so they couldn't go, they wanted to stay at 9.9. They hadn't sold anything in the in-between stage.
Was it?
So,
Who's it coming from then? Who's the seller? You said you've narrowed it
well,
down.
I don't want, I could speculate, but obviously this is not Australia, it's Canada, where you don't know exactly, but I have my suspicions.
Yeah, fair enough. I feel like I shouldn't be pushing it too much on that. I do
Oh,
want to
it's
talk.
okay. Keep pushing. This is barbecue time.
I do want to talk about those channel samples though. What is it? Yeah, walk me through it. Instead of me summarizing it, walk me through it. What did you see? What do you like about it? Why did you think it was material enough to put out a news release on it?
Yeah, look, often, this is, I don't know if your viewers agree with me, but in our side of it, there's this bullshit bingo, they call it sometimes. And there's a whole bunch of like elephant country, blah, blah, blah. And one of them is no work since the 80s or the 60s, name the era. And all we had from that property was some pretty, I don't know, widely spaced IP data and a couple of trenches. And that's all we had initially to go on. But the Hydes area was a location that I've now spoken to some of the geologists from BHP who've worked on that area, and they were suddenly pulled off to go to South Australia, where there was Olympic Dam, Prominent Hill, Carrapateena were being discovered. So they were pulled away from there. And I said, okay, so we have these data, but for some reason you didn't actually analyze for gold. What's the reason? And said, well, we were only interested in copper at the time. We're not a gold company, ostensibly. BHP don't explore for gold, and they never have.
Hmm.
But so they couldn't recall whether they did actually analyze for gold or they didn't analyze for gold. But regardless, the copper numbers were significant enough that we thought, okay, let's try and find that trench again. We found the trench again, and we came up with the same numbers. 24 meters at 0.74 is what we came up, which is very similar to what they had. And interestingly, it's 0.36 grams per ton gold. Look, those numbers are very similar to what they have in Mount Lyell, which is probably 12, 13 kilometers to the north. And the gravity and the intersection between the gravity and the mag are extremely important at Mount Lyell. And the gravity seems to be where the copper mineralization is, and the alteration seems to be where the chlorite magnetite is. Obviously, that's the magnetics. And we have, I'd say, the most analogous geophysics to Hydes that we've seen anywhere in the district. And bear in mind that we have 25 kilometers. We've already drilled to the south at Darwin. And this is the most analogous we've seen. The other location that we have that we're really excited about is also Linda. And now it jukes the geophysics is a little bit more, I'm just going to be honest with you here. It's a little bit more uh, undefined, but at Hydes, you have gravity anomaly sitting right next to and almost above a magnetic anomaly. So, and that sits adjacent to this 1960s, sorry, channel sample that was channeled before. We found it. We found where they sampled. We came up with exactly the same numbers. So our confidence level's gone up incredibly based on geophysics that has now improved since the 1980s, which we've replicated. We've improved if you like, the processing, the imagery, the location where the mineralization might be. And it's sitting all one on top of the other. Mineralization at the surface, in the trench, then the gravity and the magnetic sitting right underneath. So it's not difficult we're just going to put up a hole at the surface on the, about 150, 200 meters away and just drill straight into the gravity anomaly. So hopefully by the time the SEG conference comes around in September, we will have the results of the drilling.
There was a photo in that news release. It was figure six on here that shows the chalcopyrite mineralized chloride altered breccia from that channel sample, and the amount of sulfides in that specific piece, they look pretty impressive. I'd put it at 5%, 5 to 10%. I'd put it maybe closer to 10. So a lot. How much of the channel looked exactly like that, though? I mean, how representative is this piece of the rest of it?
Well, I haven't been, full disclosure, I haven't actually been there myself. I'm going to go there to have a look at it. But according to there's two geologists, Jono, one you met, and there was another guy, Luca. And as far as they're concerned, that is all like that. Okay. The whole thing. Yeah. The whole length of the channel. Now, then it's kind of gets, covered up and buried in the vegetation. So you have the outcrop, and then it just goes under the muskeg, if you like. That's what it's like up there.
But so this is an outcrop. Why was this not drilled before? How did you miss it? How did anybody miss this thing in the first place? Because if you see this thing outcropping, then obviously you go and drill it, right?
Well, outcrop is a tenuous term, right? It outcrops because we pulled the vegetation back and found it. Okay. That's what Johnny was doing. It was completely covered, since the 1960s, 70s, and 80s. I mean, the vegetation, you've seen how thick it is up there. It is completely overgrown. I mean, you can see an adit in the side of a hill, but if somebody's taken a sample across, vegetation is completely overgrown, and it was impossible. You would have walked over it and not seen it had Jono not, he's kind of resected it using various different methods, and these two geologists sort of said it's got to be around here somewhere. So they just kept pulling back the vegetation until they found it.
Okay, that is boots in the ground again. Nothing beats that work, I suppose. I was actually quite impressed by the adits that we went in, we went in one of those. But you said you have a lot more of those. Are there any of those at Hydes as well?
Yes, there is, and in fact, the day that I did go up to Hydes with Jono, we discovered the one, and it does have chalcopyrite with the two. It's not so far from the channel sampling that we did. I think they've sampled it, and we don't have the results back. But yeah, there was a but it's an exploration adit. It's not a mining adit or anything like that. It was just something that the old timers in the early 1900s put in. We've sampled it. In fact, we got some gypsum results from that area as well, which is kind of interesting. We're not quite sure what that's telling us, but yeah.
So it's the same adit as the one that we went in, right?
That's you went to.
No, but I mean the same type. Yeah, I know.
Yeah,
it's the same type, because you said it's an exploration adit that we went into an exploration adit as well. The interesting part is the adit that we went in, it was leaching copper on the walls, right? So it had these green streams essentially of copper that's turned into malachite, if you will. Is that what did you see in the adit at Hydes? What does that look like?
I didn't go in because it's too dangerous to go into it with sight unseen. So we had to get speleologists to help us with it. and I haven't actually been in since then. But I don't think, according to Jono, it wasn't as impressive as the one that you went into.
Okay. No, fair enough. Does going back to that piece here on figure 6, does the copper sit within the class of the breccia or the matrix or the vein salvages, or where's the copper here that you assayed?
We've sent it out away for thin section analysis, but our understanding is that that's in the matrix. It's a later event.
Okay, that is interesting here. Just write it down. Did you also run multi-element assays on this? And does the chalcopyrite in the chloride elevate? I mean, does it bring up elevated arsenic or any nasties or anything else?
No, nothing else was elevated. In fact, there was a little bit of silver in there, but no, there was no nasties, as you say. There's nothing deleterious in there at all.
Okay.
No,
Okay.
like antimony and the other culprits. No, no, not elevated. It's not like an epithermal vein system or something like this. This is more IOCG stroke porphyry style. So you don't tend to get those elevated arsenic and antimony kicks.
I do see that within that 24-meter channel, the copper values, they do swing quite a lot from like 0.2% to a full 2%. And only 4 of the 1 meter samples go above 1% copper. So the composite grade seems to be, leaning on a handful of these spikes, essentially. Is that telling you anything about the type of mineralizing event? Again, you're mentioning the IOCG thesis here again, and also maybe the grade variability that you could expect at depth here.
No, it's not telling us a huge amount. I mean, that's very similar to what they have at Hydes as well. I mean, sorry, at Mount Lyell as well.
Okay.
I mean, you do have, particular zones that are better. I think you went to the Iron Blow when we first went there, and that was the particularly copper-rich, area where you have a lot of veins that are concentrated into a narrow area. No, I think it's just telling you the general Clark, which is the average grade of the whole area, is elevated in copper. And yes, obviously there's going to be, different zones, if you like. And, because this chalcopyrite tends to form in the matrix in general, it's a later event. It does form in particular zones, and some of them are higher. Some of the interesting thing is hardly any of those samples had no copper. So it's kind of distributed throughout the whole, the whole intersection of that channel sample that it took. But yeah, there are discrete zones of higher copper, but it's kind of mineralized throughout.
So what is it that you're expecting then to see in the drill core? Like, did you have to replicate it? Let's maybe ask it that way. What would drilling success look like here? As in, does it have to be 0.7% copper and 0.4 gold for it to work and be significant, or could lower grade matter as well?
What we're looking for here is probably an underground type scenario. And so it has to be north of 0.6%. There was 22 different ore bodies at Mount Lyell. They all have slightly different grades. Some of the better ones, Prince Lyell and Tharsis. Some of them are extremely high. Some of them are 1.2% copper. I mean, if we can get between 0.8 and 1% over 30 to 40 meters, that would indicate that we really are in a sweet spot. But if you're getting anything above 1% in this general geological environment, I think it's extremely encouraging over, like significant intervals.
Well, size matters here, of course, too. So you're mentioning 20 to 30 meters. If you want to confirm the IOCG thesis, wouldn't it have to be broader intercepts necessarily?
No, not necessarily. I mean, we talked about the IOCG, but the jury's still out as to what this is. There's never been a defined paper. There's never been any defined geological interpretation as to what these are. I mean, we're human. We have to put everything into a box and we have to pigeonhole it. And this is one of those classic ones where it's not really fitting in. So no, I don't subscribe to that point of view that it has to kind of like look like this or look like that. Even you look at Olympic Dam and Carapatina, they're extremely different looking, but they're all classified as an IOCG, and they both have different intervals of different types of mineralization at different elevations within the Earth's surface. So, look, I think as soon as we got the drill going, I'd like to come back and you interview me, and I could tell you more. I can't really tell you.
Yeah.
All I can say is I know what economically we're looking for, and I know that the market is looking for us to be more than 0.8%
Yeah.
over intervals.
Yeah, I'm basically trying to think about my own expectations here and thinking of, because when I think of Tasmania and having looked at it multiple times since I came back from there as well, when I think of that part of Tasmania, I'm mostly thinking VMS, right? And also the age group of the rocks would correspond better with a VMS than an IOCG. So is that still part? Could that still be part of the thesis of VMS here, or is that something you're writing off completely?
No, absolutely not. You're absolutely right. I mean, look, we're geologists, and I think you've been around enough geologists now over the few years that you've been doing this. Like, if you speak to two or three different geologists, they'll tell you different
Sure.
things, right?
Yeah.
My first question when Sean is like, we're in the Mount Reed Volcanics group here, and they have significant base metals, tin, and you've seen it, you've
Yeah.
seen it was there. I said, why isn't it just a typical, and he has his reasons as to why he thinks it's an IOCG, but I think it's a very valid question, and I think the jury's still out as to what exactly this is. All we do know is it's got copper and gold. Look, Mount Lyell's been operating for over 100 years, and we still don't quite know what it is.
Mhm.
So instead of trying to pigeonhole and think, okay, is it an IOCG? Is it a porphyry? Like, there's even one ore body, ore body that's at Mount Lyell. That's kind of more similar to an epithermal gold deposit. So it's got a bit of everything. Henty is a vein type
Mhm.
gold deposit. It's got so many different ore body types in this Mount Reed Volcanics. I mean, we have to call it something. And the vice president of exploration has hung his hat on the IOCG. But if somebody comes out and definitively said something else, I'll just go, I just chase that one too. We don't know. All I
Mhm.
can say is we know there's mineralization there. We can't be married to one hypothesis at this stage.
I'm thinking so expectations number one, but also approach to it. So approach as in how deep are you going to have to drill it? How many meters is going to take to define it, and so on and so forth. So this first pass program, how deep do you go?
I think when I was asking Jono and Sean, 350 to 400 meters is probably going to be the maximum, 350 to 400 meters.
Okay.
Um, yeah. So,
Is
what are we going to do? 3 holes per? Yeah, that's right. So it's 2,000 meters, 300 per hole with a little bit plus and minus, either side. Yeah,
okay.
that's right.
Is you have an IP coming out soon, if I'm not mistaken, because it was mentioned in one of those news releases. Is that done now, or when is that coming out?
Yeah, we just spoke about that before we came on now. It's been a bit delayed, but they're doing it now, and
Okay.
we'll have the results of that, and it'll be feeding in whilst we're doing, because we can do real-time IP interpretation as we're
Mhm.
drilling. Like, we'll be collaring the hole this weekend, we're hoping, and we're being through a whole bunch of overburden. If you look at that cross section, there's another diagram coming out. We're hoping to put a news release out maybe next week. And you can see from the cross section, there's going to be a bunch of overburden. It's going to take us a while to get, into the juicy bits. Um, but yeah, the IP is going to help and be feeding in to any future drilling past the first hole.
Well, yeah, that's basically what I was going to ask you is how is that going to change your drill plan, or what are you hoping to see there? What could it tell you really about where to drill? What would you be looking for in an IP?
Induced polarization. Well, we're looking for continuous, IP seems to have been somewhat important at Dukes, and it highlights where the mineralization is at surface. We haven't done an extensive surface exploration program at Hydes as of yet, but what we're hoping to do is get an IP result which is fairly positive. We then know where to send the geologists out. We're talking about that before this interview as well. We'll be able to set up a field camp at the top of the ridge there and send them out in the summer. So we're going to have field geologists, drilling, and IP all going at the same time. coming into the spring. So it's going to be pretty active. So hopefully by that 4-month hold release, we'll have some exciting information. Yeah.
Better news flow, I assume, than right before this channel sample.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, that would be definitely be welcomed here. What about what are the deal breaker observations here? Like the grade and we talked about nasties, but with something else that could be in the core that would make you write off Hydes as a target. What's something you don't want to see essentially?
I don't think it's anything, to be honest with you. Nothing's really come up in any of the other holes and any of the historical holes. There's nice thing about this ore is it tends to be quite clean. I mean, in the old days, Mount Lyell was used as a training ground for smelting. I mean, this is where the smelting began at Mount Lyell. There's not too much in the way of the deleterious material in this type of rock. So no, I'm not expecting anything. I mean, the one thing that I always, when you're drilling something completely virgin like this, I'm just hoping that we drill significant mineralization and we don't drill what the geologists like to call a geological success.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had a term for that when I was working at BHP.
Yeah, that's something that a lot of people say when they create results that don't move the share price essentially, or move it down even. They call it geological success in my experience. But the definition of that is actually the definition of success is a bit loose in that case. Yeah, what else? Jasper, you found a new anomaly in Jasper, and
Yeah.
thanks. Yeah.
Oh, crikey. Yeah. Look, it's coming up with some interesting. That's where the EM is. That's what we were talking about earlier.
Yeah.
There's an EM anomaly here that was never tested, and it seems like the previous drilling came up a little short. And look, here again, we're talking about geological theories. That's a completely different type of geology at all. It's an abducted sheet. So it's completely different geology from Hydes, Dukes, and all of this. It's actually in a different age rocks. Look, I mean, this was actually an old mine back in the 1930s and 40s, and the drill roads into it is still pretty good. And there's not much work that needs to be done to bring them up. We got drill permits to drill. We got amazing grades of copper in there. The only reason we haven't gone all in on this one is that it's actually quite a small area. But now that we have this EM target, which hasn't been actually explained, we're going to put one hole into that. Now, I'm hoping now that we've raised the extra $1 million over and above what we had before, we got enough in the budget. So not only have we got Hydes, we got Dukes, we got Linda North, Linda South, which we haven't even touched on yet, which have bigger gravity and magnetic anomalies than even Mount Lyell does. And we have this Jasper, which is sitting about 100 kilometers north of all of this. That hadn't, bingo again, no work for good. There was one drill hole that was put in, but it was a little short, but no real surface field work for maybe 20, 30 years.
You're going to put in one hole into it, though, so it's going to be drilled during this program as well.
Well, interesting enough, it's just like, it's a bit like this. I'll try and put that in focus there. You got the EM target, the drill hole dropped short. We just like to put it straight into the drill hole, right underneath all the high grade. This is 4 or 5% plus copper grades, and just see, well, what is this? What is this EM target then? The interesting thing about having worked for a major company before, Antonio, is that the majors, when they come in, they don't like to leave anything unexplained when they go in there. This is unexplained. There's also one of the largest gravity anomalies in Tasmania on our property as well, never been explained. All of these things in a bull market, majors really are curious and have the budget to want to explore in places that as a junior you can't afford to really take a risk. Like the problem is we're only as good as our last drill hole. That's the saying, right?
Yeah.
Whereas a major will drill all of these different things. So the size of the land package that we have with some of the unexplained anomalies that we have would really appeal to a major. And I think I mentioned to you, we do have a mid-sized company coming down in a few weeks' time as well. This is real unusual playground, because it's not like you're looking for porphyries in Chile, or you're looking for, sedimentary copper in Congo or something. In here, anything could turn up. Like we have the Southern Hemisphere's largest tin mine, Renison, just 30 kilometers from where we are. Rosebery is now, according to latest numbers, about 72 million tons at 12% zinc. One of the largest base metal mines in in this part of the world. And you know what? We have Henty, one of the highest grade gold mines that's nearby. We've got Mount Lyell, which has been going 100 years. So anything could turn up in any of the. All I'm saying is that we have enough money now to do the amount of field work that we need to do to really prosecute 4 or 5 of our best anomalies. And we're starting with the one that everybody talks about at the moment, Hydes.
What could this EM be, though? Because you're mentioning Renison and Rosebery. Is this necessarily base metal? Like,
No,
is it zinc or tin, or what is it?
Yeah, the geologists seem to think it might be more of a base metal type target.
Why don't you fence it then in that case? Because if it's a sheet and you drill one hole, and if it's different in thickness or whatever, why wouldn't you kind of fence
No,
it? Is it a money issue or?
no. So the thickness of it is actually fairly consistent. You put one hole into it,
Hmm.
and say, for example, in geological terms, it might be a dolerite dike, it might be a basic dike or something. And then you've explained, okay, that anomaly is just going to be all of that type of rock, which is unmineralized. But if it is mineralized, well, then of course we'll be raising money at much higher prices, which will please people, in the
Yeah.
market, and be able to do a proper drill program. I mean, this is what exploration is all about. We're paid to, as I say, explain to my daughter, I work in the riskiest end of the riskiest business on the planet.
Yeah.
And people pay you to take risks, a calculated risk, but risks all the same, right? And, when you have something unexplained like that, where there's been 4% I think the highest grade sample we had was 18% copper, unexplained. Nobody can really explain why it's there. And then we have an EM target, which, geophysicists always have a target for you to drill, but this has never been drilled before. Well, it could be mineralized, or it could be completely unmineralized, but it's worth putting a hole in. That location would also be about $300 a meter, Canadian, that is. One of the cheaper locations we have because of the location of it. Yeah, why not put it in? This is what we're paid to do. This is the risk we're paid to take.
How does this compare to Rosebery, the anomaly, or Renison? Like when you look at it, put it next to each other.
Geology again.
Yeah.
This is different age rock. Renison and Rosebery are lower Cambrian, sorry, age rocks in a particular package. This is more similar to the AMC, which is the Arthur Metamorphic Complex, and it's a completely different age, but still unexplained. I mean, there's a geological theory that it is some of these rocks have come all the way from North America, but the MRV, the volcanics may be more related to other rocks that are in Australia. So we had this, over obviously millions of years, we've had one suite of rocks that have come from one direction, have collided with the MRV, the Mount Reed volcanics, which is where the Renison tin mine and all that are, and it's been shoved on top of it. But we still don't know all we know is we got zinc. We have 2 different types of mineralization there. We have base metal, we got copper gold. We're going to be drilling the copper.
That's something that I'm just thinking of. Yeah, I mean, it's just there's a lot going on at the same time. Kind of, it's like different metals and different age group rocks, and that's something that is. I'm thinking about how you bring that to investors, or how you pitch it, because it's sort of like I've recently come to feel like I've known that before, but now I really believe it is that people don't value what they don't understand, right? And so how do you make the market understand everything and value you properly for the upside potential here? Like, do you pitch it as rare earths or copper? Do you pitch it as a small but high grade VMS, or is it a big, again, ISCG, or is it Now, going in that EM anomaly, is it more of a base metal play? How do you pitch CopperCorp? What is CopperCorp, I suppose?
Yeah, okay. I'll try and there's a bunch of questions there, but I'll try and answer you succinctly. Look, CopperCorp's all about a very large land position. We have roughly 1,800 square kilometers, so close to 2,000 square kilometers in two main mineral belts. But ostensibly, we're called CopperCorp because we're looking for copper. Well, that's obviously, the first thing that's going to change is probably we'll find a tin mine or something. But no, I'm just being facetious. But, we're going in, we're looking for copper, but you cannot use a shotgun approach on as a junior company, you have limited funds. You have to concentrate on one area considered your highest priority. Our highest priority of targets are just south of one of the longest running copper mines, in recent history, the Mount Lyell. And the anomalies are very similar. So that's where we're starting. This Jasper has come out of left field, but it's one of those ones that's a sleeper that, given enough money, given enough funds, and maybe even a joint venture with a major, we would partition out maybe part of the AMC and part of Jasper as part of a larger. If you look at other deals like Inflection Resources, I mean, they did an amazing deal with Anglo Gold Ashanti where they basically partitioned out different anomalies, and there was a certain amount of expenditure has to go on each different property. That is the type of approach I would like to see. Part of it we keep for ourselves and we drill the best anomalies, but in order to keep the momentum going, and if you like, eyeballs on us, if you have a major involved, you interview absolutely everybody. I know this. And there's two opinions. People say, I love joint ventures. I love having the major, and it gives me security. It gives me some sort of authenticity to do what I'm. And the other half will go, oh my God, you're giving the company away.
Yeah.
Right. So the in between, I think, is you give some of your property to a major or a mid-size, but hopefully you keep some of the best for yourself. Now, obviously, I could completely, change my mind. It depends on kind of deal, who comes with what kind of deal. I'm not looking to joint venture anything that we have right now. But if somebody's going to come and take a look at ours, it's like anything in life, what piece of art you think is worth, 500,000, I might think is worth $500. If they come to our property and say, look, okay, you have a large land position, you have all of these different anomalies, we'd offer you this type of deal, obviously I'll consider it. My job at BHP was business development. So look, I've been on both sides of it now. You cannot rule out the fact that there may be parts of our property would appeal to major companies simply because of the land size. Yeah, okay. There's something. There's a group that I used to know really well, Neuron Resources. I don't know if you're familiar with them. Neuron, they
No.
Ring of Fire in Northern Ontario, and BHP and Twiggy Forest, Neuron Resources. Yeah, they were taken over by Twiggy Forest, and interesting. Afterwards, I know the CEO extremely well. And I said, "Well, what was the big? Why were these two big companies fighting over? Your results were great, but what was the deal?" He said they were interested in the size of the land package that we have. And I was like, oh, that's kind of interesting. So look, there's nobody in Tasmania. We own 2% of the land surface of Tasmania. I know there's rarely, other than some of the companies that have got some large land positions in WA, there's rarely any junior company have got larger land positions than we have. And that's being part of our strategy, is to keep these large land. Yeah, some of it's getting a bit more expensive, but we are actually letting pieces go here and there. But ostensibly, we still got a very large land package. So if copper prices and gold prices continue the way they're going, we'll become a very, attractive target for one of the majors who's looking to spend a bunch of money on, an area play, if you like.
Yeah. This is, I was just trying to read up on the company that we were talking about, Neuron
Inflection.
Resources.
Oh, Neuron, yeah.
Yeah. No, it's actually an interesting situation that's happening here. I'm just kind of looking through it. But you mentioned what did you say, a mid-tier company or something? What was that you just said earlier would be?
Yeah.
They're what, signing a CA, coming to have a look, or is there any more interest from strategics in the meantime?
They've already been down. This is our second visit.
Oh, that's interesting.
I'm going to leave it at that for now, but yeah. But they would be a company that would really strongly consider. It's not one of honestly, I think Tasmania is a bit of a hard ask for maybe a BHP or Rio Tinto. You go to the next level down. Tasmania, I think, when you got 72 million tons at Rosebery, that is owned by Chinese group. It's part of Australia that I don't think is on the radar of the really big guys, but it's certainly of interest to mid-size companies.
That's interesting. Yeah. Okay. Well, hoping to see some more about that soon. Sybanye is now running a feasibility study in Mount Lyell, as you mentioned, according to their own operating updates. Is there, what are you seeing? Like, do you say there's more people on site? Is it looking like they might finish it on, they promised to in their updates, they promised to finish it in H2 of this year. So essentially by the end of this year. Do you know anything more about that? Because again, that could attract more interest and could kind of help the case here where, as far as I understand it, it's since we've been talking, it's been like, this is too big for a small company to do on its own. We need, a big player to come in. So could that be part of the reason, or part of the, part of the pitch here?
I'll try and be diplomatic with my answer to that. Sybanye have some of their own internal issues. They have a new CEO right now. That's not the issue, obviously. But who knows? When you have I was at BHP for 3 different CEOs, and each had a completely different strategy. So once this guy's got his feet under, and I think he takes over officially in September, let's see what he's doing now. There's been a lot of activity at Mount Lyell, but it's like anything. When you have a president of a country that's like being voted in, but he's not actually sitting in office yet. You've got that lame duck situation where we're in the middle. They also have an outstanding situation in Brazil that needs to be taken care of. They kind of Stillwater is something that they have in US, or they bought in the US, that maybe hasn't worked out as well as they hoped it would. So I would say it's a company that at the moment could change strategy and really go all in on something in Tasmania, or it could be something that they could see as a saleable asset. And look, obviously we are in contact with the geologist there. He's a really nice fellow, and we know the mine manager as well, but they're keeping quite tight-lipped about what they're going to do going forward. But obviously, like a junior company, you always say, oh yeah, I'll bring this onto development. And they're talking about bringing this thing to development, but whether they actually do that and they execute it, I'm no further wiser. Yes, there's more activity, but it could be that there's more activity because they're looking to maybe package it up and sell it. But I'm just speculating right now. All I'm saying is that there's enough activity to show interest, but there's not enough to show that they're going to, the trucks are going to be starting to process ore, within a year.
Yeah, that's interesting. That's just a kind of an additional part, if you will, to the story. Yeah. That's interesting to me as well. I don't think it's the main part of the story, but no, I think I've been through most of it. It's been a good update. We're a little overdue, I think, or I'm hoping next time we speak is going to be sooner, maybe on the back of the IP and some of the stuff that you're seeing from the drilling. But I think I'm all out of questions for now. What is, as always, I'm going to ask you, what keeps you up at night? Like, what's you're now, again, multiple moving parts at the same time. What keeps you up at night?
I think what keeps me up at night is that, I think what you need to do is we need to have a good intersection of at least 20 meters at, between 0.5 and 1% at least, but obviously north of 0.75, which is based on, that trench sample at Hydes. Unfortunately, as a junior, you're kind of like every last hole you're judged on. And I just hope that this first hole delivers the results which I'm hoping it does. That's what keeps me up at night. But all I can say is I'm very relieved we have enough cash to be able to doing every program that we're doing. We have the right people on site right now. We have the right drilling company doing the drilling. I couldn't actually put the whole team and what we're doing together any better than it's been going. Nature will just take its course, and that's what keeps me up. Maybe nature's not going to be kind to us, or maybe it will be. We'll see.
That's a good place to end it at, unless you think we're missing something. What did you come here hoping to talk about that I've not brought up?
No, I think we covered it all. Thanks very much. As
Awesome.
usual, it was a pleasure.
Thank you so much for your time. And as always, thanks to everyone for watching Resource Talks. I have a couple of more things to say, though. The fact that this company was interviewed here today does not mean that they're necessarily a good or a bad company. I'm not here to endorse nor attack anyone. I am simply here to ask some questions. If you find that I have failed in asking a question that you would have liked to hear an answer to, which will happen as I'm not an experienced interviewer, please let me know and I will try to correct that mistake in a future interview. As mentioned at the beginning, please understand that mineral exploration and development is an extremely risky business. Losing money is the norm and should be the expectation. This is a very complex sector, and the performance of individual companies typically depends on many different moving particles, including company-specific factors like geology, financing ability, and many others, really, as well as particles that are outside of the company's control, like geopolitics, macroeconomics, commodity prices, and many more, most of which are nearly impossible to fully understand. Moreover, these companies that typically get interviewed on Resource Talks are in the pre-revenue stage, which means they rely on the public markets for the financing of their operations, which could result in shareholder dilution. Furthermore, as a general rule of thumb, you'll be better off understanding that all company communications online, albeit this interview or their website and their presentation and their social media accounts, or even the social media accounts which you thought were your friends and then told you about a stock, everything really that these companies do is intended as marketing. And although I do not make buy or sell recommendations because there is a clear conflict of interest given the nature of my business, many out there do. And you should be aware of that inherent bias and you should be careful out there. That bias is not always going to be clearly disclosed with everyone out there. So it is safer for you anytime you're watching any type of company specific content to approach it with a dose of skepticism and assume that the party telling you about it is biased in at least some shape or form, because there will always be a bias. Again, albeit clear or not. So always ask yourself what the incentive of your counterparty is and never rely on them regardless of their incentives, but instead double check if what they're saying is true, again, by using setterplus.ca. The fact that I have no idea what I'm doing should already be clear to you at this point. I am not saying this to make jokes or laugh with myself. I just simply do not have a long enough track record of consistent investment profits. So I should under no circumstances be considered an authority on anything. Again, although this may sound amusing to you, believe me, it is not amusing and it is not intended as a joke. I'm simply pointing out a fact and warning you not to rely on anything I do or say. Unfortunately, at least to my understanding, nobody out there has any special abilities. The CEOs do not possess any superior knowledge, and they cannot know about what will go up, what will go down, or what will go in circles. Some people even believe that to be rule number one on Wall Street. Nobody really knows. None of us know whether any of the company's activities will result in a success, again, given that we're talking about high-risk activities where most of the times it ends in failure. Oh, so unfortunately, try as I may, I won't always catch all red flags or all challenges with the companies. So even if I did ask a few tough questions in here, don't rely on this being all of the tough questions. Again, these are complicated startups with many moving parts, and I am conflicted given the nature of this business. Therefore, I cannot guarantee the quality of anything presented in this video, and you cannot hold me responsible for any losses or damages stemming from the way you decide to use this interview. Viewers, listeners, and readers acknowledge and agree that the information presented herein did not constitute a solicitation or an offer to buy or sell any security or investment or to participate in any trading strategy. Resource Talks and all parties involved in the management of the business strictly disclaim any and all liability for losses and or damages, whether direct, indirect, special, or consequential, or other consequences, however so caused, arising out of any use or reproduction of the content published by resource talks, or any decision made or action taken in reliance upon it. By consuming this content, all consumers vow to release resource talks and all parties involved in the management of the business from all claims, proceedings, or consequences. This is all to say, I know it's a lot of lawyer talk, but this is all to say that you shouldn't blindly trust me or anybody on the internet, and you should do your own research. Once again, social media is meant for entertainment. It is setterplus.ca where you do your research. That's where you'll find a company's official filings, and I encourage you to read and analyze the Management Information Circular, the financial statements, the Management Discussion and Analysis, and whenever available, the NI 43-101 technical documents. If you don't understand everything in those documents, the chances of you losing money are even higher than they normally are in this space. And as mentioned earlier, the chances of even the best analysts in this sector losing money are extremely high, since this is venture capital and it is not for everybody. I'll leave you with one of Charlie Munger's quotes, which I wish I had listened to more often earlier on, which says, quote, "If you don't understand it, don't do it."